Greetings and salutations, race fans, motorsport lovers, and others, and welcome to another series in Absolute Legends of Motorsport that Raceday is trying to bring you over this different time that we are in. Today is a slightly different interview in that it is mainly voice. We have some pictures, but we have an absolute legend of motorsport, somebody who has been around talking about racing, commentating the PR industry, and a true legend. Roger McCleary, thank you very much for joining us by telephone today.
Well, it's very nice to talk to you, Colin. Nice to hear you on 2002. I know you're a top racer in your time, and to see that you've carried on with it and have all this enthusiasm for getting the message of promoting motorsport. There's various facets that we've got in South Africa. It's great.
Rog, you say the kindest words. You know, since I've been around involved in racing, I've heard your voice, and I grew up with you describing races, John Burke's called it theatre of the mind, building a picture and commentating so that many of us developed an absolute true passion through your voice of talking through races. You've from a boy from Ireland, I'm almost lost for words, Roger, but a young man from Ireland who fell in love with motorbikes, coming out to South Africa. How the hell do you get to start talking about races?
Well, let me just tell you, I was born in Northern Ireland, in Bangor in Northern Ireland, and came out here just before the war. In fact, it was my fourth birthday when we arrived in Durban, about 7 weeks before the war started. But my old man had come out a year earlier. I've never found out why I came to South Africa, to be quite honest, and of course, nobody around to ask her. And then I did the normal thing, went to school and went to Warburg Boys High and carried on. And then after the war, my dad came back. The BBC used to have a program overseas on motorsport on the TT. And there was a chap called Graham Walker who was giving the commentary then. I used to listen and hear the sound of Nortons and AJs. And then next to him, unbeknownst to us, his son was sitting. There was a chap called Murray Walker, who's now 96 and still going strong. Never thinking that maybe 40 years or 30 years later I'd be sitting alongside him with Carl Army and commentating on motorsport.
And that's how we got you and Murray Walker talking together. I mean, that's a privilege, and you must have learned so much from him, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I reckon he's the greatest, because I still say he was the voice of Formula One. He'd also started doing scrambling, as they called it in the UK, and road racing. And Murray brought the whole thing to, you know, the differences between, say, doing I think radio today just needs to give results of races, because people have seen things on telly and can visualize. I mean, you have circuit commentaries where you need to tell the people, is to, number one, promote the sport, tell people what's happening, where the leaders are, what corners. So they're in the picture when they see and they say, he's leading, how many laps to go. But in the TV, which was nice, and we did the first live broadcast on Motorsport from Carl Army in 76. And the big thing there is you've got to be just like a voice of conscience behind. So you're watching a picture, and you don't have to describe, look at so-and-so fighting it out with so-and-so. You want to fill him in what the details of so-and-so are or whatever. So people can see that. Don't say, here they come and there they go.
So to try and build a 3D picture of what we're seeing. So we're seeing with our eyes exactly what's happening, and then you just come in and add that color.
Well, that's what we try to do. You know, we always say to commentators at the circuit or the TV, go and do your homework, go and get atmosphere down the pit. Don't think that anybody's there to hear your voice or whatever they think you know. Go and find out details to sell it to the public, to tell what Saul van der Merwe does, what he's accomplished, who he's up against, Willie Hepburn, or whoever it is, you know, Ian Schechter, and give them background to where they come from, what they've done. Saul's done 11 rally champion years in road racing, but he's still one of the heroes of the crowd. I think I was a Masters fan who's at his retirement party when he turned 60, and Saul's now about 74 and still racing. So he didn't give up anything, you know. And you know, when you see him at Swaai, you hear the people cheering above the noise of the cars, those big V8. So Saul is just as competitive as you were. Is competitive, going for it, whoever it is. Your Saul's giving it the full works, boy. Bump them, do what you like. Saul's in there really entertaining the crowd, you know. And It was to get that story over of people and lesser people. I always say, don't try and give instructions. Don't try and tell people what they should be doing. They're doing it, you not. Just describe what you see and what's happened. But don't say he's following so they can see that.
But you always had tricks. You had a lot of tricks or methods, shall we call it this way, of finding out information. And you once said to me, phone people and let them talk, and you'll find out a lot.
Yeah, it is. You must learn to listen too. And you know, the biggest thing, we did actually the first broadcast from Carl Army. Because our big thing, what actually helped us promote motorsport in the early days of TV, is that the Donnie Craven, the head of rugby, told the TV people, no way do you do live TV on rugby in the country. You can record it and show it later because it'll empty the stadium. We couldn't believe our luck. He was basically a minor sport against cricket, rugby, soccer, and that. To give an opportunity, and SABC in those days, Top Sport, had to find 3 hours, 4 hours of sport on a Saturday afternoon to show. And guess who was around? Us. At Carl Army, Kalani, wherever it was in motocross. We had hours of television on a Saturday afternoon, which helped promote the whole of motorsport and expand it and everything like that, just because Donnie Craven had done it and didn't take it from. I mean, it's a religion in South Africa, and they made a recorded sport, which of course is changed these days. But that helped us immensely. And then the nice thing about the TV, they were new to Alan Johnson coming out from. There's another Irishman he came from Manchester doing British TV, BBC, and he came to teach these guys, and Alan was around. And then we got producers like Robbie Wakeman, Scotty Stewart, Richard Bahrain, Richard Parker, these guys, most enthusiastic.
That was a legendary team, a legendary group. It was a massively legendary team and group of enthusiastic petrol heads.
When you got there in the morning, man, everybody was, you had the top sound guys. What we used to do in the early days, as the car came towards you, the guy would open the sound mic and then drop it. So you heard the noise of the car coming past you and disappearing. These days, they almost just keep all the mics open. You just hear the general noise. Now, there were the people who put the subtitles on, the producers looking for shots, spotters. I don't know if you ever spotted for Scotty Stewart.
No,
didn't you?
No, I think I gave Scotty a lot of footage with.
You would do that.
I was off the track a lot.
Yeah, no, that was a good place. But you know, Scotty, people don't really know that he changed the face of not only motorsport. He got a Grand Prix award there for the best Grand Prix coverage in the world when we were doing it live here. He changed the face of golf in the world. They always used to just show highlights at odd holes and the odd star playing. Scotty did the whole of the Nedbank Challenge in 1980-81 with toys and cameras from something like 40, 50 cameras from from Supersport, and then covered the whole course with all the players. And the same thing with marathon. You saw one or two people. Then he brought in helicopters and, you know, interviewing guys along the road with something like 50, 60 cameras did the comrades. Now, these days you take for granted, you see a marathon in Hamburg or Berlin or London. You see the whole marathon. You never got that before. You saw the start, one or two people sweating it out, and the finish. So we had guys that were enthusiastic and were allowed to show their creativity, you know, and you had better be on the ball because they were depending on shots. I remember with Scotty, because there's a lot, you're not allowed to talk to anybody else but the crowd. You know, who you're talking to, there's no going back to the producer and suggesting things. And you'd hear them saying, I remember it well, people are talking the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my life. You think, oh, this is not going too well, you know?
Yeah.
And can't you give us another shot in the sky and a tar road to the cameraman? You think, oh, this is different. Then we hand back the live production to the studio. Say, well done, boys, that was good stuff.
Incredibly hard. I mean, the production crews then were the between the voices and the production crews. There was incredible
a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely, and hard. The production guys were hard. They pushed for excellence, and I mean, exciting times.
Listen, you used to have people, of course, people listened. You never knew who you're talking to.
Yeah.
But the metrication board, we just changed over in the 60s to metric. And they'd write and say, you do not say kilometre, it's kilometre. And you get letters like it. And from then on, I used to say 100 Ks an hour. But I mean, you had people saying you didn't pronounce it right. Didn't you know the name of this person? Oh, God, it went on. But I mean, those were fantastic days. I mean, I did it with them for probably about 30 years.
Yeah.
And it just got better and better. And then, today I don't think, live telly, they need those producers back. Scotty's now retired. He's an advisor to Supersport. But, I mean, Scotty was good at powerboat. So was Richard Moraine. Robbie Wakeman, we did rallies live. We were unique in the world. We used to go in the hills go down to the Matopas and down to Free State and do rallies live, almost live, and put them out on the Saturday afternoon as it happened. And when we had the prize given for a rally, it was out before 6 o'clock on the end of a Saturday afternoon, and that was the rally covered, prize giving, speeches, everything.
Amazing then you could do these live things now, and I think the sports channels are so jam-packed full of competition, and maybe the way is on the streaming side of it, and a way
I agree with you, Colin. What you guys have done with streaming, I mean, you were doing the Samola Hill Climb, which I think is one of our best events today.
Oh, I love the event, hey?
It's the whole setting and the nice people that run it, and there's nobody getting upset, and the cars that we see and history, and it's just terrific.
And that's part of the reason, Roger, that's part of the reason Samola was part of the jogging of our memories. It would be first week in May, but postponed to September. Right. And this weekend, we're going to run some of the footage from last year. And that got us to wanting to talk to you, and again, in our Legends thing, because you come alive at these events where there's so many memories that get jogged, and just looking at some of those old cars, I marvel at the knowledge that you've got.
It's a lot of it, Colin, is homework. It's really, it's a lot of memories. I've been part of the scene. Yeah. But that last year, I tell you what was fantastic. It was shattered. We had, when we were doing it, I remember doing a little bit of commentary with you guys. And then suddenly came through a picture of the blokes in London saying, hi there, Neisner. We're enjoying it. Here's a toast to you all. And I thought, how can we get that? And then people would say, hear you in Hermanus. Yeah. And another one came from Canada. Yeah. Said, I've been watching Samola. It's fantastic. I thought, how does that work? I mean, the equipment that you bring along and the enthusiasm is fantastic.
Well, Rog,
it really brings it alive.
We try, and from me personally, you have been and still are a mega inspiration to one day, if I can be 10% of as good as you are, Rog, I'll be absolutely ecstatic. But I want to go back. Yeah. You mentioned Sorrel van der Merwe. We had a wonderful picture. I know that you're not from a technical point of view, you're not quite there yet. But from our side, we've got a lovely picture of Sorrel and you taken at Swaai. If we go to 1C, Fritz. And I want to talk through, you've had an incredible relationship with Sorrel and spoken through his career, right from the beginning into Manufacturers Challenge. And the picture we're showing now is the Manufacturers Challenge race that was actually the support race of the South African Grand Prix. With Willie Hepburn, Dave Charlton, Sorrel, Jeff Mortimer, Errol Shearsby, Basil van Rooyen, and that was a wonderful period, wasn't it?
Look, there's Dave Clapham and those guys got to go. And Dave Clapham did a great thing for Motosport, got series going like Fords and other guys involved, of course, and V's and that, but it was really encouraging. And manufacturers, we got all the manufacturers involved building special cars. It was unique in the world. Yeah. Unfortunately, it became very expensive, but also a couple of big prangs.
And we want to talk about one of those pranks. So the next picture we've got shows Ian Schechter with Sorrel sideways in front of him. That was...
going through Yuxkay.
Going through Yuxkay, and then the next one is into the catch fences. Now, I've got a personal story about that, but we'll get to that at the end. There's a lead up to this. And talk us through that season and what led to this huge crash.
Well, I tell you what, I had Saul and Ian at a launch of Adrian Pfeiffer's book on Kalani, and I had them on the stage, and I said, "You've got to come and talk about that train you had at Yuxke. That was a high-speed train that took two of these manufacturers' cars out." And I said to Ian first, "Tell us what happened." Ian, he said, "No, look, it's taken us years, but we're big friends. I don't want to open it." I said, "Just tell us what happened." No, he said, "I don't know, it was just a brain fade I had, man. I went into him and pushed him into the fences." So I said to Saul, "What's your version of this?" He said, "He tried to murder me."
Yeah.
I said, "You're kidding." Anyway, a little bit afterwards, I saw Ian at his lunch. He said, "You want to know the real story?" He says, "That bloke pushed me in those cars and bumped me the whole season. And I couldn't believe my luck. There he was in front of me, and I just let him have it. And we both went into the fences. It was, well, we can't worry about the motor cars. Drivers don't really worry about the cars at the time. And the two of them went off in an epic crash. Luckily, they all came out of the same space in these cars. And the fences that we used to have there and all that type of thing. But that was one of our high-speed corners in the world, man.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely mega. Next picture.
So that was really started the course. They started to run out of cars, these cars, and manufacturers eventually failed, which was a pity. But I mean, then came in the Group 1, and Clapham was in, and Dennis Shabir, Kalani got the Group 1, and that we got all the manufacturers into.
Yeah.
And that Group 1 racing, which was the standard cars with odd mods and that and roll cages, was fantastic. I mean, it just brought everybody in. And I think, Colin, the difference between those days and these days is the sheer cost of it. And I think one of the biggest costs we had, starting maybe around 2000, around about there, is the cost of tyres.
Yeah.
You know, a superbike to Kyle Army now, 2 10-lap races, he can change his 2 tyres in between races for 10 laps. And the tyres cost him 20,000 rand.
Yeah.
He used to have the same tyres the whole season, man. And we thought when the spread went that the tyre was wearing out. We didn't realize we were getting more rubber on the road, actually.
Yeah, and then in the Group 1, and you were involved from a continental point of view with Group N. And we ended up skimming the hell out of the tyres because that was faster.
Yeah, I tell you, Conti, I think I got it as a PR account at a motoring media PR company, and that was one of my blue chip companies. We did record breaking with them. And every tyre they sold in this country was made in P. They had an N before tyre cut and technical guys, and they were fantastic. And we built those tyres. They're standard tyres, and then they also scraped the treads down. They were supposed to scrape them off, but I mean, people did that. What do they call it?
Skimming. Yeah, we skim the tyres.
Yeah, skim the tyres.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those tyres used to lot, and everybody used Conti tyres except BMW until we had a wet day at Swaai course. And Tony Viana came down and said, "Listen, you guys have got a couple of Contis for these. I want the other. These other tyres aren't gripping on this wet surface." And everybody in the field was on Conti.
Yeah.
And then we got on to Holder Cup afterwards. I'm not mad personally about one make series, I must say. I think which we lack today, the great thing is to have manufacturers. In motorsport and promoters, you need manufacturers, you need star drivers. They all bring people you need full fields, bring people to the circuit to see them racing.
But Rog, don't you think with I'll make the case for certain classes of one makes, in that remember the Group 1 or Group N, and in particularly in some of the lower classes, there was a wide mix, and there was always one manufacturer whose car was a little bit better than the others. And I mean, in the beginning, it was the Corolla, the Conquest in the small class. Then it became the Cub, and so you end up with one make domination. So in some ways, in those series, you end up with a one make classes.
Yeah, one dominating his class.
Yeah.
But you know, I tell you what, I've always said to the guys today, I mean, these manufacturers to promote, because I don't say it's the only part of the marketing mix, but it's an essential part. We've got all these circuits, we've got series on for them, into your cars, because two manufacturers that have been with motor racing for the last 40 years are Toyota and Volkswagen.
Absolutely.
Rain or shine, win or lose. And who were the number 1 and 2 in the country sellers?
Yeah,
Fiat and
absolutely.
Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And you had Ford and the others come and go. They've always done that, came and go. In Opel, I remember the GM guys saying, take it from us. This is when GM bought back into Delta.
Yeah.
And they came back and they came. I want to tell you something. You'll never see another Opel or Chev race. And I said, well, you'll watch your sales figures go down. And guess what?
Yeah, they
left
did.
the country eventually, you know.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, motorsport is there. It helps promote. It gives you a, you know, I say it's got a sphere of influence. People say, should I buy a Volkswagen Golf? You say, well, they win all the races. They must be good.
And
That's
also they
the
go to,
reliability factor.
when somebody is looking for something in the motor industry, they go to somebody involved in racing. So, and they know. So they'll say, hey, listen, what if, X, Y, Z.
What do you think?
Excuse me, and it goes to batteries, Save-At batteries, windscreens, PG, and all those...
Say that and all those others.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to go back, and just to go back to some of our pictures. And yesterday we had a brilliant chat with Willie Hepburn, and a super legend. And the car that came up was the Sierra. And he was, in his words, and that's picture number 4, Fritzy, that in his words, he says, Roger McCleary called this thing the animal. Talk us through what led to the naming. Yeah, what happened there, Roger?
They used to have a camera in the back of the car just in front of him. They tried something else. It was as simple as this. And coming down from Crowthorne down through Barbecue, it looked wild. I mean, Willie was all over the road, and Willie could drive. I mean, Willie was one of our legends who's been going since the 60s and still racing in the 70s. But he's been driving since 1960-odd. And Willie just looked to me like an animal coming. He was looking for conquest. He was looking for more dynamite here, and that was Willie coming down the road. And I said, this car looks like an absolute animal that he's driving, as Willie could do, because he can drive a motor car, the same old Willie. He didn't go. And prepare his car, and he's got an open, he does it all himself. He's a one-man band. Fix it, weld it, panel beat it, drive it, race it, win. I mean,
absolutely incredible. I mean, you think of the you mentioned earlier on the characters, the people who've added so much color. Sarl, Ian, Willie, Tony Viana.
Yeah, but we need that. You know, Colin, I mean, you were one of the characters who I think we miss characters. I know we've got them still. We have still got them. We've got the Reggie Roots, Richard
Roots, yeah.
Those guys, and but you know, in the old days you had genuine characters, and maybe Kelly brought them to light. I mean, Saul, you interview Saul, you're not quite sure if he's live. I mean, you wouldn't be quite sure that he's not going to swear mightily on the telly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or he'll come out with,
and that's who he is.
And he'll come out with some dry comment. At Swart Corps.
That's him.
Yeah, I know, Swart Corps, he's not going out for practice. So we got the camera, we live and all the rest of it, and I'll say to Sorrel, you're not going out for practice. Why? Did they change the track?
No.
I mean, that was absolutely Sorrel.
No, that is so. Look, we had all those guys. I mean, we had the Dion Jabez, yourself came into it, but you think about all and they had the motorcyclists, the Siemens and Van Badal and Johan Boshoff and these guys. You know, it was very nice, the sports cars. I came up from Cape Town in 1970. I'd been transferred to open the Honda office up here in Joburg, and I thought, yay, come on. And we had to get to motorbikes. They were always sort of either early in the morning or late at night on the program. And Francis Tucker really did the great things for Carl. And his father, by the way, was a mayor that had a hand in building Ellis Park, you know, the rugby stadium. Anyway, Francis said to us, why don't you form a motorcycle club, the SEC Motorcycle Club, which he did at Sturrock Park. Because I was big into motorcycle, I worked for Honda and that type of thing. And Hell's Angel thought, a new club coming along, and it all came along. Mike, what is his name?
Von Bredar?
Mike, I forget his name. He led the Hell's Angel. Anyway, they came along and thought it was going to be a racing meeting. And then, and Francis, he did more for motorcycling than everybody gave him justice. He didn't realize what he did. He says, whatever you want to do, do. And eventually, I always said, you've got to be on between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's where we got the motorcycles. And then Francis, you say, no, you've got to have them there, man. And we get these big fields, and then we went to the FIM to get a Grand Prix too. Well, we had a couple of Grand Prix, and we travelled all over the world.
But you were involved in going to FIM to convince him to bring the Grand Prix here, weren't
Well,
you,
it
Roger?
happened. Mike Reed, there's another guy who became the chairman of the motorcycle club, the organising committee after the circuit was sold. Listen, here's a little rumour.
Yeah.
When they sold the circuit the first time, we owed 385,000 rand.
Yeah.
You mean and out there, they're going to have an auction out at the circuit, and along came Max Bosley and Francis was there. And funny enough, an article clerk in Tucker's office was a chap called Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
Anyway, they came out there, we were standing under the dripping wet pits at the back of Kyalami, it was pouring down, and they said, no, the deal's been done. And then we heard a little rumor that the early financing of Kyalami, this might be totally wrong, was actually financed by a chap called Oswald Mosley. He was a Nazi party leader in England, became Sir Oswald Mosley after the war, Max's father.
Yeah.
And maybe he came to retrieve some of Daddy's money. I've never found that out, and I've asked people, believe me.
It is alleged.
Yeah, it is alleged. That's a good one. It is rumored that.
Yeah,
But the other was the FIM.
Yeah.
We said, Mike, I remember the guy, there was a bloke called Ian Kenyon on the committee for organising. Carl, I used to go to a meeting every lunchtime on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
He stuck his office downtown Joburg, EFK Tucker.
Yeah.
And I said, we'd like to have a motorcycle-only meeting. And Kenyon, who helped start Kyalami in the 60s, and that said, over my dead body we'll have a motorbike-only meeting. And that, I just said nothing. I just thought, well, that's a challenge. We are going, and we did. And we had our Grand Prix. But we went over, first went to Japan.
Yes.
And to Tokyo. I went with my wife, Annette, and I'd never been to one. There's 92 countries in those days were represented, particularly those who had Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And we went to this big conference hall in one of these big hotels in Tokyo and had a roll call. And the Secretary General, French, it's always done in French, he says the roll call is Afrique du Sud. I thought, there must be another guy from Africa here. They pointed and say, it's you. I said, well, we're present here. Yeah. And at tea time, all the countries came over and started to say, how's it? And, of course, our biggest thing that we'd had in 1996, we had a Kyalami. They all knew about Kyalami. Yeah. They knew about Redmond, Paddy Driver, Gary Hocking, Corky Ballington. So it wasn't that we're going in cold. South Africans had a good history over there winning World Championship. And they all came over to talk. And then eventually we went to Geneva to see the road racing commission. I went with Mike Reed. Yeah. And he said, right, you need 12 tons of air freight, you need 130 air tickets, you need this, that, and the other. And I thought to myself, where's going to get that money? And a voice next to me, sitting on the couch in this hotel in Geneva, said, yeah, fine, we'll do all that. So I said to him afterwards, Mike, where are we going to get the money? He says, don't worry about it. If we're going to run international motorsport, and he was a CA, picking other people's performance to make a decision like that is big. It's sweating business. He says, if we're going to run international motorsport, let's do it. We'll find the sponsor. And that's what we did.
And who was that sponsor?
Well, it was actually a cigarette company, and about a week before the first Grand Prix pulled out. And we were left without that, and all sorts of things. Anyway, eventually we went to the government, funny enough. Yeah. With a parliamentarian there called Senator Owen Horwood. Yeah. So we said, what we're going to do? And I said, well, let's go and see the government. And they said, nobody's ever paid us a penny from the government. You'll never get money from the government. So we went down to the House of Parliament and sat in his office there in ordinary suits and that. And he said, so after tea, and he said, so what can I say? Well, look, it's an open air sport, it's a genuine world championship. This is the height of apartheid, was ran, Sammy poisoning everybody. I said, we ran it, and it unfortunately was run in the rain, was the second meeting, whatever, and we were short on the gate. We just didn't have money to pay for it, and we got a load of motorbikes sitting out at Youngswijk Airport waiting to go back overseas. We had every works bike in the world out there. If we don't find the money, we're going to not be able to even send them back. He says, how much you need? So we said 385,000 rand. He sat for a moment or two. And he said, okay, I'll get it for you. I could have leant across and kissed him. and that's how we got our money, and on we came. It actually broke up the sports book. Like I said, the government never paid that money. And he actually did put it in our account, and we paid all our debts and got the bikes back.
Now,
But then they
Rog,
sold it.
maybe we need to send you to the current government to get to talk to them about having bike Grand Prix and Formula One Grand Prix.
Well, no, the thing is what Toby says, and Toby, you know, we always lost money on overseas international, 9 hours and things. You've got to have a sponsor that covers all the expenses.
Yeah.
You can't make it on the gate money. There's not enough people in South Africa. I mean, they say with Formula One, the current price, which you pay 5,000 rand is a ticket to go and see it. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two might. But the biggest thing, Toby's quite right. He asked people to pay for the use of that circuit. It's a perfection-built circuit.
It's
really
beautiful, eh? World class.
Beautiful. Everything world class, ready to go. He says it's not a matter of if we're going to have a Grand Prix, it's when we're going to have a Grand Prix. The Chase chap came back from Liberty.
Yeah.
And Toby said, I agree with him because he said, how can you have a circuit like this facility and not have a Grand Prix? So Toby says, I agree with you. Just pay the money, you can hire the circuit and do what you like. And he's actually right on that.
Yeah.
Because some of the other countries are saying the same thing.
Well,
I
it's
personally would like to see Marcus going down to that first corner in a slide on his elbow at 300 k's an hour, you know, in a two-wheel slide. They'll bring the... Actually, I said to Toby not long ago, Toby, all you need to do is get Marcus, Brad Binder, Valentino Rossi to come and practice for the weekend.
I mean, fill that place, absolutely.
So,
talking about what brings us, you've brought us very nicely up to date now. Your feelings of current motorsport at the moment, Rog, and what are the things that still get your heart pumping?
Well, I think motorsport per se, it's sort of Formula One got rid of the sound. I think you've got to appeal to people's senses. That's better. Your ears and your nose as well. We lost Castle, the smell of Castle off. Where you can slip a little bit of castor oil in the tank and get it again. The sound went, and the feel of the cars, and that you don't relate to a lot of these cars. Saloon cars you do.
Yeah.
So some of these Formula Ones, they're just wings and things.
Yeah.
I think we do a most informal way of putting on a race, organizing a race. You come and you enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah.
The people are friendly. You go to these overseas Grand Prix. We've had it here when they've come. You've got to have the right ticket. You can't walk here. Where are you doing? They fine you for walking the wrong place. Don't cross the road. You've got, and I think the world might change back to this. I mean, I remember a picture of Joey Dunlop, the 126 TT. Here's Joey just before TT changing his back tire. You know, they reckon Brad Binder was saying the other day he's got 56 people look after him riding his worst KTM. And he hasn't raced it yet. Already passed the two race. I think what we need to do is get back, I think, to basics. It's easy to say this. The thing that killed it is, as we said with tires, is the cost of motor racing. And I remember in the days that Grant, as my son, was racing motocross, the motocross 125 cost 1,000 rand. Today it's 90-odd thousand, maybe 100,000 rand. You've got to have a very rich daddy or a big sponsor to go racing. And it's changed the whole face. Yeah. The racing we put on at the moment is brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
The tour at Swaai, he gets 400 entries, cars and bikes.
And we've got unbelievable talent in this country as well.
Oh, the talent we've got here, Colin, is fantastic. You know, we've got people who design cars, who engineer different cars. The Basil Greens, we had all that. The Rory Byrne, Gordon Murray's. The guys that built their own cars. Peter Bailey doing these cars. They're better than original. We've got the talent here.
Yeah.
We just need to publicize, which I think we're lacking. We don't get a lot of press cars going because people aren't out there promoting.
That's always been, I'm baffled at that a lot about some of the press. And I'm not having a go at motoring journalists. I know it's expensive to go to races and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's seldom that you see a lot of them, a lot more photographers as opposed to wordsmiths. And in some ways, I think, Andre de Kock was probably...
He still is.
Absolutely. John Oxley, Harvey Thomas, Andre de Kock, true wordsmiths and crafters of who would tell a story as opposed to writing out in words basically what the results were.
You know, Colin, I think what's changed, the world has changed, and journalists have changed. So I said that to Robin Andrew, who was president for 20 years. And the Guild of Motoring Journalists was built on Grand Prix racing from East London in the 60s.
Yeah.
And it's there to give responsible journalism. Today, the guys, they're closing down supplements. Magazines are closed. And all this type of thing is happening. I mean, some of this TV they put on is not worth watching on some of these TV, so really. And the journalists are changing. It's more social media guys, this, that, and the other. And, you know, we're not getting them coming along. They're not encouraged to go along. I mean, you take from MSA, Motosport South Africa, and the world has changed there too. We used to have a marketing committee, which was to promote motorsport and you know, really bring it across to the people. That has been dropped long ago. Now they're telling me only administrative bodies. Well, in my book, that's fine to say that. What a franchise do you take license fees, you take permit fees, and you put nothing back into the sport. You need to get in professional PR people promoting it. And you'll see the manufacturers will react and say, these other guys are getting good mileage and that. We haven't got tire companies in there. We haven't got oil companies. It's not an oil company. It's not a bank. There's nobody around. There's no manufacturers. I mean, Toyota does a great job, and so does
Volkswagen. But we'll get them back, Raj, without a doubt. And there's that little clip that you said there about getting a proper marketing people, and they'll come back. I'm going to cut that out and send it to Anton and see if we can get some reaction to him. Raj,
Well, I mean, hold on, Colin, you think about you on the thing, the guys in telly like yourself, and then promoting it to the manufacturers to sponsor what you're doing. You think, look at the mileage we're getting out of this promoting our product. There's somebody got to be there, the tire companies. I mean, the potential's back there, that's all vanished, and you're left to circuit owners. I think the Toys probably does the best job. You can hardly get a booking there for these driving academies and testing days and that type of thing. You've got circuits around the country just waiting to go ahead. We had Conti Cornish, we had Sassel in there, and they've all gone. And we had PRs from those motor companies who were motorsport orientated. So if you put another marketing committee together and had those guys in those days, you'd have all the best brains and access to the best money in the country to promote the sport. Because it's as exciting. The motorcyclists, I can't believe the speed of those motorcycles going around Swartkops. I mean,
unbelievable. And the lean angles they get to, crazy stuff.
Oh, man. You know, they had this Stephen Odendahl. I don't think he's got the right motorbike overseas, maybe in Grand Prix Racing or in the Superbike. He came to ride against our local guys. He blew them away. I can't believe it, the speed of that bike going up the hill up to the top of the circuit.
No,
300 k's an hour, man.
Absolutely proper. Rog, our technical guys are saying to us that time is running out. But before we go, because I reckon we should actually try and set up a world record for an interview. Between you and I, we both talk so much, I reckon we could go for 18 hours absolutely straight. But before we go, Rod.
Haven't we been only doing it for 10 minutes now?
Yeah, it feels like 10 minutes. Before we go, who is, of all the people you've met in racing, of all the people that you've spoken to, that you've seen, give us one person who has blown your socks away the most.
Well, one amongst many, I'd say Jody Scheckter in his Renault days, coming down to Crowthorne, you think, oh God, here he comes again. And he hit the corner sideways, go in the dirt, come back in the circuit. He got away with that, and there he was coming around again. He was spectacular. And the first time I saw him in a V12 Ferraris coming along the back straight at Kyalami around sunset, and you heard this V12 Ferrari, and around sunset came a Ferrari going sideways. I thought, man,
can only be Scheckter. Yeah.
Jody Scheckter, he was fantastic.
Absolutely magic. Roger McCleary, I've got to say thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with us. Absolutely brilliant. Be safe over this time, and
we'll see you at the next meeting.
We'll see you at the next racetrack.
Good stuff. Hope it's soon. Well done, Colin. Stay safe.
Thanks a lot, Roger.
All the best to everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
And for those of you who watched and joined us and listened, thank you so much for joining us. It's been it's so fantastic for us to be able to talk to these true, proper legends, people who've, I mean, the voice of motorsport, Roger McCleary, he gave me so much love and passion and joy for racing. I hope he did to you too. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Be safe, be lekker. We'll talk again from Raceday. Cheers.